The following presentation is a work of fiction, for entertainment purposes only. Any similarities to real-life events and people are purely coincidental. Do not play any emergency alert system tones on the air or radio waves, such as TVs and radios, as it will cause real-life activations and can trigger mass disruption and panic. This presentation may also contain loud sounds, and the content creator advises not to wear any hearing devices at a high volume. More details in the video description below. The content creator will not be taking any full responsibility for hearing loss complaints, and will not be held responsible for any civil unrest as a result of the misuse of the EAS tones. Viewer discretion is advised.
The following message is transmitted at the request by the Olympia Police Department and the Washington State Police. A violent vampire attack has been spread across Seattle and has begun affecting nearby areas too, as far as further north towards Canada, and it is spreading south through SeaTac. Due to this, a voluntary evacuation order has been issued to residents living in Olympia. Citizens in Olympia are advised to do the following actions. Gather an emergency supply of food worth of 3 to 5 days, a gallon of water for each member of your family, extra clothes and blankets for each member of your family, medical supplies, batteries, flashlight or emergency lighting supplies, survival kits, and a battery-powered or hand-crank-powered radio. Use only one vehicle per family. If you have relatives who need help, take them with you if possible, or call the emergency service number at 911, and local and military authorities will help you. Before you evacuate, tie a bright cloth to a visible location of your house, such as a door or mailbox, to let authorities know that you are leaving to a safe location. Turn off gas, water, and electricity in your house. When you evacuate, head south from Thurston County, or west from the city. If possible, try to get as far away from Olympia or from the Seattle metropolitan area as possible. This is only a voluntary evacuation, and there are no penalties for disobedience. However, if you choose not to evacuate, you may face certain death by these vampiric creatures. Stay tuned to this station and other media outlets for later updates and information.
The following message is transmitted at the request by the Tacoma Police Department and state officials. A mandatory evacuation order is in effect for the Seattle metropolitan area, including all of Tacoma. A massive swarm of vampires has overtaken Seattle and is currently spreading further north, while slowly spreading eastward, and it is currently heading towards Tacoma, and it is expected to reach Tacoma within 30 minutes. All residents in Tacoma are strongly advised to evacuate now. Bring enough emergency supplies that can last for 3 to 5 days, such as food, water, clothing, medical supplies, extra batteries, and a battery-powered radio. Use one vehicle per family. If you are having difficulties in evacuating, or if you can't evacuate on your own, call 911, and military authorities will help you. Before you evacuate, turn off your gas, electricity, and water in your house. Tie a bright towel or cloth to a visible location, as military authorities will know that you are evacuating. When you evacuate, follow down the following evacuation routes. Interstate 5 south towards Olympia. State Route 7 south towards the city of Morton. State Route 520 south towards Centralia. Do not try to take any alternative routes, or take any long-way roads, as you'll most likely put yourself into there's at risk for spotting any vampire creature on the road. Follow these marked evacuation routes by local and military officials. Evacuate now. To repeat, evacuate Tacoma now. Do not wait, or you will die. Continue to monitor a local news station and other media outlets for later updates and information on this dangerous situation.
This is KIT 1280 AM radio, serving the Yakima, Washington area. It's 8:35 p.m. on October 30th, 2019. This report is a follow-up regarding the vampire attack in Seattle since 20 minutes ago. According to the Emergency Management in Washington and the Washington National Guard, these vampires continue to attack civilians further north towards Blaine, Washington. Tacoma is currently in progress of being invaded by sproutes of vampire hordes, while some residents in Olympia decided to flee from the city south away from Thurston and King counties, towards Pierce by southeast or through Thurston County by the west, away from the proximity of the Seattle metro area. Casualty numbers are currently unknown, but was believed to be up to 100,000 of people, and the vampire infection rates have appeared to be grown dramatically in such a short period of time. As of this present moment, the special squadron from the governmental organization, codenamed Vampire Hunters, operating under the governmental organization, Templar Special Unit, or officially named as Templar Paranormal Security Forces personnel, are currently above the Washington state, and it is approaching towards the military installation at Camp Murray in 2 minutes. Once they arrive, the commander-in-chief of the organization, Julian DiCaprio, will discuss to the Washington National Guard about the severity of the situation, and about planning to deal with this situation. Information about the discussion will not be revealed to the public because the commander-in-chief knew about these creatures from before, and he told authorities that these vampire creatures have increased intelligence and will know about everything if they expose anything confidential to the public. The organization has dealt with many of these paranormal and vampiric threats since during its founding in 1978, and the recent event was in October 31, 2004, when 5 cultist members from the vampirism cult Red Religion Rite invaded the Mount Guardian School in Salem, Oregon at night during the Halloween Vigil ceremony. Some organization squad members, including DiCaprio, were there on routine watch, and swiftly dealt with the situation with the assistance from the authorities of the Salem police. Some military authorities felt concerned about what will happen to Zen or many of the squad members, due to the fact that the infection rates have risen dramatically, and as many as up to 750,000 to 1.5 million people were infected and turned into these vampire monsters. The commander-in-chief told the authorities that it might take some time to figure out the plan to solve this. This plan might go on to initiate an offensive to liberate the Seattle metro area and any affected cities, and to halt any further vampire attacks from spreading. One such offensive that if any simple mistakes were to occur, this might trigger an all-out state of national emergency. All we can do is wait for the decision from Julian DiCaprio and the squad forces called Vampire Hunters to deal with this massive vampire attack that has never seen before since the Mount Guardian School incident since almost 15 years ago. As such, we will continue to monitor the situation if this situation improves, or if new and vital information is available to us. This is KIT 1280 AM radio. Stay tuned to this broadcast for further information. We now go on to these radio messages from one of our sponsors.
This message is transmitted at the request by the British Columbia Emergency Management. This is not a test. Stay tuned to this station for the following information.
Ce message est transmis à la demande de la British Columbia Emergency Management. Ce n'est pas un test. Restez à l'écoute de cette station pour les informations suivantes.
The event type is civil danger. In effect for the central and southern British Columbia. At 8:48 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, reports of vampire attacks in the cities of Iraq, Langley, and Delta have been received. Emergency management officials believe that these vampires have been originated from the United States, where a neighboring U.S. state of Washington from the border is first under attack by vampires, who was first appeared in the Washington city of Seattle. Local authorities are attempting to deal with this situation, but they were having difficulty in doing so. At this time, the governments of Canada and the United States, in conjunction with the Templar Paranormal Security Forces personnel, are currently discussing about the severity of this situation. All residents in these affected areas are strongly advised to do the following actions to ensure your survival. Seek an underground shelter, or on the lowest level of your home if possible. If you do not have any of these shelters, hide in a nethermost portion of your house, or in an interior room with all doors and windows locked, especially that your house must have all windows and doors locked or boarded up. Avoid glass windows, exterior walls, and doors. Stock up emergency supplies worth of 5 days. Do not go outside and try to apprehend this creature by yourself, or you're putting yourself and others in extreme danger. These vampires have the following characteristics and abilities. Morphing between human and vampire forms, pale white skin tones when morphed, red eyes, sharp teeth, blood on their mouths or on teeth, increased strength, speed, jumping power, and in some cases, able to transform into bats, or activate their wings, and can able to fly in short to medium-long distances. If you were attacked by this creature, your chances of survival are between minimum to none, and you will always die due to blood loss and shock, and according to health officials, have 60 to 80% chance of infection and reanimation, and victims who were killed by these vampire creatures, and who were reanimated have these same characteristics and abilities. Additionally, they also have increased intelligence. Do not let anyone in your home, as these creatures can disguise themselves by morphine, and will ultimately kill you on a spot. If you spot these creatures, or if you have a life-threatening emergency, please call 911 immediately. Those who have non-emergencies should dial 311. Continue to monitor this station for later information.
This is KIT 1280 AM radio, serving the Yakima, Washington area, coming in tonight about the recent events since the last broadcast about more than 40 minutes ago. Here is the current situation in Tacoma, Washington. The Tacoma Narrows Bridge has suffered severe damage by these vampire creatures, forcing the evacuating traffic to be redirected through the areas of Thurston and Mason counties. This had led to hundreds to thousands of deaths of civilian evacuees attempting to leave from Kitsap County, when evacuees have encountered several vampire creatures before they even get to any of the alternative routes. The city of Seattle is left in utter ruins, while Olympia is still under a voluntary evacuation order. However, military authorities of the Washington National Guard are currently assisting their evacuation efforts. This is the current update about the discussion between the commanders of the United States Armed Forces, the Washington National Guard, and the Templar Paranormal Security Forces personnel. The three groups have finally reached a decision, and the offensive of liberating the areas of Seattle metropolitan area, and all affected cities from these vampires will begin initiating by 10 minutes, while the Coalition Army, consisting of soldiers from the United States Armed Forces, Washington National Guard, and the Templar Paranormal Security Forces personnel's elite squadron, vampire hunters are preparing for a bloodiest battle the state of Washington has ever experienced. It is unknown how long the offensive might last, or if they would be able to deal with this situation with over several thousands of coalition forces against millions of infected vampiric mutants. Take note of the fact that every decision they make will affect hundreds of thousands of lives if they were not careful. However, with the three groups working together, We can pray and send out hopes to the coalition forces, ensuring that they might succeed, even when during the times that Washington, and including the United States, are on the edge of being involved in one of the darkest and tragic times in history. We will continue to monitor the situation and the status of the coalition forces as possible, as long as these vampires will not find a way to know their movements, something that Zen Julian DiCaprio had been feared for a long time, knowing that vampires are full of surprises, and all of their tricks up their sleeves might deal a devastating blow to the coalition forces. This is KIT 1280 AM radio, serving in Yakima, Washington area. Welcome back to KIT 1280 AM radio. Broadcasting from Yakima. This is a current update of the situation and the coalition forces. The coalition forces has just been deployed from Lakewood, Washington 10 minutes ago, and had encountered vampire hostiles at 9:29 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The TPSFP's elite squad vampire hunters managed to wipe out small groups of these creatures, and it is on its track towards Tacoma, where vampires are still wreaking havoc across the city. With the force's strength of over 9,000 soldiers in total, the fate of their winning and survival depends on when they will initiate the tactics and strategies. If you are the resident in Tacoma, Washington, please do not go outside until military authorities can extract you, or you may be shot accidentally by the coalition forces, or you may be bitten by these creatures. If you hear gunfire, or if you hear these vampires outside in the distance, hide immediately in a secure and secluded location. Do not panic. This is KIT 1280 AM radio, coming in for an update about the recent status from the coalition forces. The members of the coalition forces, including the TPSFP's vampire hunters, and military soldiers from the U.S. Army, and the Washington National Guard, had finally eliminated these vampire creatures from the city of Tacoma, while over hundreds of soldiers being wiped out in the process. Only a small number of these creatures has been seen escaping northward from Interstate 5, and it is reported to have been fleeing toward Seattle. The coalition forces feared that the vampire creatures might come back and retake Tacoma from the coalition forces' hands with lethal force. Because of this, members of the coalition forces are advising residents in Tacoma to not leave their homes as a precaution until they come to your doorstep, and they will take them to a safe location. Here is the current update of the situation. Approximately 40,000 to 100,000 vampires are seen spreading eastward at a slow pace, while vampires estimated to be 90,000 to 150,000 were marching northward, and only thousands were seen attacking parts of the Canadian province of British Columbia, while only a small percentage of the 70,000 vampire creatures were pushed back from Tacoma, however, still remains on track toward Thurston and Lewis counties by the south. As of that moment, the Federal Emergency Management Agency feared that shelters which were set up in the southern part of Pierce County may not be safe from these vampire attacks. As a result, emergency shelters are now being moved to Lewis County, and many evacuees present are being forced to relocate to the new shelters in Lewis County. The eastern part of the Seattle metropolitan area remained largely unaffected as there are only a small number of vampiric creatures moving eastward at a slow rate, between 5 to 15 miles per hour. The counties by the west from the Seattle metro area, such as Clallam County, Jefferson County, Grays Harbor County, Mason County, and Pacific County are these states that remained unaffected by this vampiric attack, but they are currently under a voluntary evacuation by FEMA. The coalition forces hasn't suffered a huge losses of life at this time, but may expect to change quickly as the situation and the liberation offensive progresses. To find out more about this situation, please visit our website at newstalkkit.com. We will continue to update the status of the coalition forces and the whole situation as soon as we get it. This is KIT 1280 AM radio, serving the Yakima, Washington area.
Civil danger for the entire state of Washington and nearby areas. The following message is transmitted at the request by the United States Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, and the Washington Office of Emergency Management. The Commander-in-Chief of the Templar Paranormal Security Forces personnel, Zan Julian DiCaprio, and most of the elite squadron forces were killed at Mount Rainier National Park. Danielle Myrtle and Ryan Abrahams are believed to be responsible for their deaths. Additionally, the hordes of vampire creatures, who were rampaging in the north and south, had suddenly began charging towards the east, and it is expected to reach the town of Ellensburg within 45 minutes. All residents in Washington are urged to evacuate to south or west immediately. There is no time to gather a large amount of food and other essentials. However, if you can do so in the next 60 to 90 seconds, you may be able to gather some food, water, and medical supplies. When you evacuate, follow down Interstate 90 to the east towards Spokane, or towards the state of Idaho. Follow down Interstate 82 southeast towards Richland, or towards the state of Oregon. Take any alternative routes or shortcuts and try to get as far away from Washington as possible. Speed limits are increased to 150 miles per hour to allow evacuees to flee from Washington safely. The Washington National Guard and the remaining members of the TPFSP squad, Vampire Hunters, will be assisting on the evacuation efforts on marked evacuation routes. Do not hesitate to evacuate, or you will be facing an extremely dangerous situation. Please stand by and await further instructions. Evacuate now.
This is KIT 1280 AM radio, serving the Yakima, Washington area. This station will now cease transmission shortly, following the update of the current situation. At exactly 12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, the squadron of the Templar Paranormal Security Forces personnel were nearly wiped out, and the Commander-in-Chief, Zan Julian DiCaprio, is now confirmed to be mutated into the vampire creature, and at last report from the United States Armed Forces, the vampires were seen charging through the east, and at that current speed, they will reach Yakima within 20 minutes. We are being told that we should evacuate immediately, and as such, this station will now go off the air for our safety. Tune to other radio stations, or on 1180 kHz on the AM band, to continue monitoring this deadly situation. If you are not evacuating, do so now. Nowhere is safe in Washington. The military will be securing the entire state within an hour. God bless you all, to the citizens of Yakima.
This message is transmitted at the request by the Government of Canada. The situation about these vampire creatures first spotted in British Columbia has been escalated. Thousands of creatures were suddenly appeared to the charging through the east, with Alberta also under attack by the charging stampede of these creatures. The Canadian Royal Army and the government are strongly advised to evacuate to east immediately. There is not enough time to gather a large amount of emergency supplies. However, you can gather a small amount, if you can do so within the next 30 to 60 seconds. The Templar Paranormal Security Forces personnel will be sending out some remaining squad members to assist the evacuation efforts. Do not stay in your home. These creatures have enough power to break into their homes with little effort. You will be killed, and may turn into one of them. Evacuate now.
We interrupt your programming. This is a national emergency. Important instructions will follow. The following message is transmitted by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the United States government. At 1:37 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, the states of Washington, Idaho, Montana, Oregon, California, and Nevada have reported severe vampire attacks from several major cities and towns. This activity was first originated from Dr. Jose Park in Seattle, Washington, and has spread eastward at a rapid rate. The two lead perpetrators of this attack, Danielle Myrtle and Ryan Abrahams, were nowhere to be found by the CIA and the FBI, and are believed to be remained at large. All residents in the United States are advised to monitor this situation, and those living in the affected states needed to evacuate to the East Coast as soon as possible. The following marked evacuation routes can be found at www.fema.gov. Prepare an emergency supply of food, water, clothing, medical supplies, and a battery-powered radio. Some reports of vampire creatures attacking in Canada and in parts of Mexico have been received, and the government agencies is believed that the vampires may attack the entire planet within the next couple of hours. Due to this, possible nuclear sterilization strikes may occur as a last-ditch effort if the situation is posing a global threat, and residents in the United States must seek a fallout shelter as a precautionary measure. If you do not evacuate, you may be putting yourself and others in extreme danger. This is an emergency action notification. All broadcast and cable stations shall transmit this emergency action notification message. This station has interrupted normal programming at the request by the White House to participate in the emergency alert system. During this emergency, all cable and broadcast stations will remain on the air to continue providing news and information to the public in assigned areas. This is KCWY. This station will continue to serve the Casper area. If you are not in this area, tune to stations providing news and information in your area. You are listening to the emergency alert system serving the Casper area. Do not use the telephone. Telephone lines should be kept open for emergency use. The emergency alert system has been activated. interrupt your programming. This is a global emergency. Important instructions will follow. The following message is transmitted at the request by the United States government. This is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test. Several vampire attacks have been received from several major cities across the world. These areas that were attacked include the following international locations: Tokyo, Japan; Shanghai, China; Beijing, China; Seoul, South Korea; Taipei, Taiwan; Vancouver, Canada; Toronto, Canada; Montreal, Canada; Monterrey, Mexico; Mexico City, Mexico; London, UK; Paris, France; Madrid, Spain; Barcelona, Spain; and Oslo, Norway. The following domestic U.S. cities that were under attack by these creatures are, but are not limited to, Seattle, Washington, Los Angeles, California; San Francisco, California; San Diego, California; Phoenix, Arizona; Las Vegas, Nevada; Reno, Nevada; Boise, Idaho; Great Falls, Montana; Minneapolis, Minnesota; Kansas City, Missouri; Dallas, Texas; Indianapolis, Indiana; Detroit, Michigan; Nashville, Tennessee; Atlanta, Georgia; Jacksonville, Florida; Miami, Florida; and Charlotte, North Carolina. All of these affected areas have suffered major damage and casualties, with many reports of vampire infections have been received. This is a global emergency and the United States has been authorized to launch nuclear strikes at the affected areas as a last resort to halt further vampire attacks. The entire nation is now currently in DEFCON 1. DEFCON 1 means nuclear war or attack is imminent. If you are not in a fallout shelter, go to one of them now. Fallout is byproduct from nuclear explosions, and certain death will occur when exposed to radiation for a prolonged periods of time. If no such shelters exist in your area, head to the basement of your home, or head to the centermost portion of your home if you don't have a basement. Put as many objects between you and the outside world. Stay away from windows and doors. Turn off all vents, air conditioning, and heating systems. Do not go outside until an all-clear siren is sounded. If no all-clear siren is sounded, wait for at least 14 days, or until military authorities comes to extract you. Make sure you have 14 days worth of emergency supplies to last. Do not panic. Panicking will most likely decrease your chance of survival, and could make the situation worse. Please stand by for the message from the representative of the President of the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, the representative of the President.
Good evening. I am the representative of the President of the United States, here tonight in behalf of the President Donald J. Trump, who is currently being evacuated from Washington, D.C. to an undisclosed location at this time. I have been authorized to read out the following message. At 3:10 a.m., several vampire creatures have been wreaking havoc in Asia, and in parts of Europe, Canada, and Mexico. The situation has been escalated into a global scale. We cannot take any chances of having one country be infected or attacked by the other. Therefore, we are granted permission to initiate nuclear sterilization strikes to all of the affected areas. Although no missiles have been launched, it is only a matter of time before the government agencies do so. This has becoming the darkest and deadliest days of our nation, and has gotten a lot of international attention to many countries. Though our actions may wipe out several economic values away from their technological cities like ours, and that it would cost our own property and lives of our own, including those around the world, we will not back down to the creatures of soulless, like these vampires. We will come back from the ashes, and we will one day find Danielle Myrtle and Ryan Abrahams, and put them to justice. We know that it might be bad for this to happen, but I'm advising all of you to do the following actions to keep you safe from any kind of situation such as this. Stay indoors or in your basement. Do not go outside. Fallout can kill, and it is invisible to humans. Make sure you have food, water, clothing, medical supplies, extra batteries, and a battery-powered radio. Turn off all vents and air conditioning, anything that could bring radioactive dust into your home. Seal off cracks in your house. Use the battery-powered radio to continue listening to our broadcasts, or to continue monitoring the situation by AM radio frequencies. Do not go outside, or you might risk being killed by these vampires, or suffer from radiation poisoning. We have no idea if these nuclear strikes might actually work against these creatures, but let's pray to God that we hope that it will work, as this is the only last resort measure, since the Templar Paranormal Security Forces personnel is running out of squad members from the elite fireteam squad vampire hunters. Let this be the final message from the Bible. Our God is our God, who raised us as a superpower, a disciple. He will come and save us from the brink of death. Even if we die right now, our nation will remain under God. May God save us all. Good night and God bless.
That was the message from the representative of the President of the United States. We will now return you to the emergency alert system.
Normal programming will now cease transmission after the alert. Tune to stations providing news and information on the AM frequencies of 910 MHz or on 1150 MHz to continue monitoring this dangerous situation. This is WABC-TV, serving the New York City area. This station will now cease transmission.